So just to welcome you, tēnā koutou katoa, he mihi nui, he mihi mahana, kia koutou katoa. Kia ora hui hui mai tātou. Kei te tūakeo, hei karakia mai tātou. So I'm just going to say karakia to bring us together and to focus us for this conversation tonight. Tuia I runga, tuia I raro, tuia I waho, tuia I roto. Tuia te here tangata, ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao. Uhi wero, taumai, hui e, tāi ki e. Kia ora te whānau, welcome. Ko Dale Corlett tōku ingoa, ko Ngāti Kahanunu ki Wairarapa, me rangi tāne, me Ngāti Ira, oku iwi. So my name's Dale. I'm the executive director here at Script to Screen, and I whakapapa on my dad's side to the Wairarapa, just over the hill from Pōneke, from Wellington, to 3 iwi over there, and to Scotland in the north, and on my mum's side to Scotland and the Isle of Man. So I just want to welcome you all. It's a privilege to be here, privilege to talk to you today about some of the programs that we're running. So I'm going to introduce the great David Court, who we're working with on these two programs, and we have done for a number of years on various programs. But first off, just to say that we're going to talk about these two programs, Strength in Numbers and Rainmakers, or Rainmakers Aotearoa. We're going to talk about them. You can ask questions as we're talking about them, or you can wait until the end and we'll have a kind of more time for a Q&A. So it's completely up to you when you want to ask a question. If something pops up, don't let it go. Just pop something in the chat, or let us know you want to have a chat. Put your hands up, and we'll cut to you to find out what your question is. So as I said, I'm the executive director here at Script to Screen. We're really proud that Script to Screen are here to support you and support filmmakers, writers, directors, producers, and other creatives across the ecosystem of film and TV to try and help you, support you to develop the best work, and to develop your businesses and develop how you go about your work. So that's what these two programs, or this kaupapa tonight is about how we help support our filmmaking and creative community to be better at what they do, to learn new skills, and to be supported in a much more holistic way, I guess. So to hand over to David Court, I'll introduce him very briefly, and then he'll introduce himself, I'm sure. But just to let you know that we've worked with David for a number of years on all sorts of things, mainly on Strength in Numbers is our core program that we've run. This is the 4th edition that we're going to run this year. But we've also developed a number of other programs together and delivered all sorts of other initiatives. And David and I have also connected in my previous life with the New Zealand Film Commission, where I was head of talent development for a number of years. And we intersected on this kind of kaupapa as well, which was equally about business development and mentoring. So really excited to see David. Welcome. He's over there in Canberra. And this is a great opportunity also in Aotearoa for us to collaborate with our Australian creatives as well, and share information, share ways we work, and share our content as well. So over to you, David. Quick introduction, and then we'll get into Strength in Numbers. Kia ora.
Thanks, Dale. Look, I don't want to say a lot about me, except to say I've been around the film industry for nearly all of my working life, more than 40 years. I've been a visitor to New Zealand for nearly 40 years, and have observed everything that's happened in New Zealand with great interest. I've had kind of every sort of job. I've been an executive producer. I've raised money for films. I've been a policy advisor, a researcher, a teacher. Teaching was almost the last thing I came to, and I wish I'd come to it earlier, because it's the thing I guess, enjoyed most. If there's one thing that kind of unites everything I've done in the industry, it's in all of those different roles I've had, it's probably been a fascination with the business itself. And the thing to say about it is that the film industry is different. You know, there are things about our business, about the way we do business, about the conditions under which we operate, that make film really quite unique. So understanding the specifics of the way business works in the film industry is, it's an art, and it's hard for us to do it because the way that we work means that we don't have many of the opportunities that people have in other industries to come together. So that the opportunities, if you work inside a large corporation, to observe others, to learn by watching, to learn by osmosis, to learn through mentoring, those sorts of opportunities don't arise as easily in our business because we tend to work alone or in very small groups. We come together for a project and then go apart again. So, there's a kind of a problem, if you like, or a systemic difficulty in transferring knowledge within our industry, especially from one generation to the next. And that's really what these two programs, Strength in Numbers and Rainmakers, are about. But that's enough of me. Let's go in now to those two projects and explain what we can about them, and then take questions.
Great. Thank you, David. Okay, so let's jump in. So we'll start with Strength in Numbers, as we were going to anyway, but we'll maybe spend a bit more time on Rainmakers because there's a bit more, people want to know a bit more about that. As I said at the very beginning, this is the 4th edition of Strength in Numbers that we've run in collaboration with David and with Compton. Primarily, Strength in Numbers is about business development or building sustainable businesses and working on a plan. So not exclusively, but we imagine more tailored towards producers and people who own businesses or who are content creators that have got a business that they are making stuff through, and having an active plan in place or something they want to try and achieve, and then taking them through this process through a series of hubs, of workshops that David facilitates, brings in others, and he leads us through that process. I'll hand over to you, David, now, if you want to talk about more of the specifics around Strength in Numbers.
So Strength in Numbers is, I think we're looking for 8 participants. It runs essentially over a total of about 6 days over about a 7-month period. We come together at the beginning for a couple of days in real life, in person. Then we have a series of 3 half-day online workshops, and then we come together again at the end for another full 2 days in real life. It's a combination of lectures, not too much of that, lots of workshops, lots of discussion, some guest speakers, and as Dale said, you'll be working in it on a plan. We really love you to be working on a plan, because the teaching all makes much more sense if you can relate it to something you actually care about, i.e. your own business. It can be, an existing business that you want to think through, or it could be that you're thinking about a new business and you want to think through that. It's partly a business planning exercise, but it's really thinking through a business and thinking through how to structure and grow that business over time. Sustainability is kind of the issue here. How do you build something that will support you through the kind of up and down motion of project work? You know what it's like when you're working on a film or a project. You're intensely occupied on that. Everything else sort of tends to fall by the way. But all that stuff that falls by the way is the stuff we're interested in. What's the business that sits underneath your projects, and how can you build that, and how can you build it in a way that sustains your projects over time, keeps you in the game, ultimately, hopefully, makes you profitable. So that's the focus of it. I don't know, there's a lot more to say. Really, we could probably almost go to questions on that if you want to do that.
Yeah, we could. I was just going to add in what I've seen over the years. If you look at the alumni, it's a pretty impressive list of people who have gone through the Strength in Numbers program over the 3 previous iterations. One thing that I've heard from all of them over the years has been the sense of cohort that came together as well, that the sense of I'm not alone, and especially when you're working on the business, not in the business. So when you're working on, are you trying to change the structure of your business? Or are you thinking about, the income streams of your business, or whatever aspects you're looking at? Sometimes it's really nice to have someone else in the room that is thinking similar things, or maybe going down a similar path, or can reflect back, having done something similar in a previous year or two. You don't feel like you're going so kind of stir crazy. So I think part of that, I've heard a lot from the alumni.
It's almost like a group problem-solving exercise.
Yeah.
We're all kind of in it together, working on the problems together and finding solutions together. And people do connect. And look, the truth of it is, and the pedagogy always says this, people learn more from their peers than they do from old people at the front of the room. Anyway, we just kind of try to orchestrate things a little to make all that well.
Absolutely. And once again, that's why, the cohort of 8, the selection of that grouping is really important as well in terms of the application process. Yes, we're looking at people and where they're at in their business and what their plan is, but also how will this group work together? Although you will work in isolation, you will work on your own problems. It's great to have a good dynamic group that represent different kind of areas of the business as well. Do we want to jump to questions? Has anyone got any questions out there? So yeah, what are the topics that Strength in Numbers will cover?
I'll speak to that if you like. So we look at a few things and they all kind of converge on this question of how to build a business. The first thing we look at, or actually we don't look at these sequentially. We kind of tend to work through them all together. But is the question of the structure of a business. So a lot of people think, they think you just register a business and all come together and somebody's the CEO. There's more to it than that. And in fact, in the creative industries, there's been a lot of brain power, if you like, expended on the question of how to bring people together in a way that works. So there are all kinds of different structures that have been devised in the creative industries. And we work through those to really sort of show you how plastic the whole idea of a business structure can be. You can shape it to be what you need it to be. And that's what we work on. The second topic is choice, decision-making, which may sound like an odd topic, but let me put it this way. The project choices you make can be quite critical in your life. And we all understand this is a business of hits, right? Sooner you can have a hit in your life, the better, because everything changes after you have a hit or a successful film or a successful project. So we focus a lot on how best to make those choices. Beyond simple intuition or asking other people, we look at how you can make those choices efficiently. And again, our industry is an industry that's kind of sorted out this problem. So there's a lot to learn from what other people do, and that's what we do. Third topic is the content black box. So that's thinking through, when you make a film, what actually are you making? And the answer is you're making a whole bundle, whole collection, a whole box full of rights and interests. And in a sense, the way you structure those rights and interests, how you share them out, how you divvy them up between the various participants is, in a sense, the essence of financing. So though it's a content topic, it's actually ultimately about financing. Fourth topic is growth strategies. So how do people grow creative businesses? Can you grow them? How big can they grow? What makes them grow? They're the things we address there. We do then have a session or a part of the workshops that addresses business planning itself. And I'm not really thinking here, and you shouldn't be thinking of, a big fat 60-page document. Really, what we're interested in here is the story of your business, the story that you're going to tell the people who work with you, the story you're going to tell to funders, the story you might tell to investors. How do you make a story that is compelling and brings people to you? And last but not least, we do spend quite a lot of time and focus on pitching. Again, a lot of people kind of feel like they have it nailed or that's something you do organically or naturally. Practice makes perfect. It really does. In fact, I'd say of all the things that we teach at Compton School, pitching is where we get the best result because it is something you really can learn to do well. And so we've focused on making you good at pitching. So that's the curriculum, if you like. It's, as Dale said, and as I've said earlier, it's an organic thing. It's not like we tick those boxes and move on to and leave them behind. They're all part of a process of helping you fashion a story and a plan and a business that is coherent to you and coherent to others.
Thank you, David. Thank you. We've got a few more questions coming in. Got a question around travel. Absolutely. So there is funding available within both programs to support travel. We'll talk about Rainmakers next. That has an international element to it, which obviously there's travel there, but actually for the hubs and things that are happening in Tamaki and Auckland, yes, absolutely for anyone around the motu, especially the Wairarapa. But anywhere around the motu, we have some money in the budget that allows for travel and accommodation to make sure we can include everyone in it. Absolutely.
The question there about can 3 people from one business. We probably can't really do that, and just in fairness to to all of the applicants, but we do very much encourage the business to send one, and then maybe that person can kind of take the message home and work offline, if you like, with their partners to to develop the answers to the questions that are posed in the workshops.
So I think there's a follow-up about a partnership. So yeah, if you've got two business partners, equal directorships, if you like, making strategic decisions in the moment would be against the value of that system or the kaupapa of that. So can we speak to that a bit more?
I don't think you'd be making decisions in the moment. You'd be taking them away. We're really framing questions and helping you work towards your own solutions. You will obviously need to consult with people, stakeholders who need to be consulted, include, not just partners, but maybe life partners or sometimes even employees or an investor if you have one. There'll be lots of people who need to be brought into the discussion. So we're not trying to kind of railroad the process. We're just trying to guide you from the sidelines. Question about what we're looking for in an applicant.
Brilliance. Well, I mean, I think you can probably speak to this more than me, but I think from my understanding of the programs and, as I said earlier, the cohort as well, I think we're looking for people who are at a certain stage in their business life where they have something they want to try and solve. Maybe they haven't got it fully formed in their mind, but they've got a clear kind of plan of what they want to try to address, and they're open to doing that. They've had a bit of a track record of making content, of delivering projects, not just starting out. I think this is slightly more advanced than that, so not brand newbies, and open to the possibility of something going in a different direction. I think all learning is based on that. The idea that I go in with one idea, but actually I'm open to the group and the individuals within it, the experts that David brings in along with himself to influence you in the direction you go. That would be my outsider's view, I guess. What about you, David?
That sounds good. Look, at just a couple of things I'd say. One is, really, as Dale is saying, readiness. So in my experience, people don't get interested in business in the creative industries until it sort of hits them in the head. It's something you're not paying attention to at the start because there's other things, to hold your attention. But at a certain point, business does sort of become an issue when you start to think about questions of, viability, sustainability. So if you've reached that point, that's then this is right for you. And the other thing I would say is I really like to see ambition, because that's the sort of one thing that seems to me to guarantee that people bring a lot of attention and bring a lot of themselves to the workshops.
So we've got a question here. So a lot of film and TV businesses seem to get off the ground from either, where are we? I think it's just critical or commercial success. And so for producers funded projects or future ambitions, but without regular cash flow, is this course appropriate?
I'd say for both. I mean, if you've had a success, yeah, it's fantastic. Then that does put you, give you a momentum and give you capacity to move other projects, more quickly into production. But if you're still in that point of, still of maybe not having had your first project, or you've had a first project, but all of these are relevant, right? It's just, as I said earlier, I think it's really about whether you think you are ready to engage with the business questions, whether they matter to you enough, whether you see them as a serious set of questions to engage with, whether you, have the ambition to build something. If you've got those things, then yeah, I think that those are the qualifications.
Okay. Funding. This is always fun. So will there be a focus on obtaining funding for films, getting sponsorship for films, or marketing films?
No. This is about the business that sits underneath the projects. So we're not particularly focused on those questions. We are interested in the choices you're making and how you're making choices about what to make. But fundamentally, we're interested in the day-to-day, the business that sits underneath. I call it it's like a platform, the place where you conduct the making of the films.
Oh, yes. So in our criteria, we've said ideal applicants have a screen business at least 3 years old with a slate of projects. And the question really is around if you've been working or running other businesses and you haven't had your own, say, production company for 3 years, but you've been doing it in different ways, are you still eligible, I guess, is the question.
Answer is yes. There's probably a little bit of ambiguity in that 3-year specification. What that really means is, do you have some experience in the business? We're looking for people who've got at least some under their belt. But you know, if your purpose is to come here and think about a new business altogether, then that's absolutely in frame.
Okay, back to strength in numbers. Will you be going over things like chain of title and contracts?
Not particularly. Again, you know, the focus is on the underlying business, not on the project business. You know, the chain of title, obviously, if you mean production contracts and similar contracts, that's not something we'd address. If you were talking about contracts relating to the underlying business, yes, we would be potentially addressing some of those.
Just moving on swiftly to Rainmakers. So Rainmakers is a new program for us that David has pitched to us and pitched to my predecessor, actually, Jackie Dennison. David and her hatched the plan to get the funding for it from the Film Commission. So that was great, very exciting. And my understanding, and David will flesh it out a lot more than I can, but my understanding is that it is at its heart, it's what we would say a tuakana taina program in Aotearoa, a mentoring program with people who are influential and raising the tide for all, and a taina, a less experienced person coming through and benefiting from that one-to-one connection. But also there's elements of shared knowledge which go through these seminars that are going to be running throughout. But I'll hand it over to David, because there's something that starts the whole process off, which I think you are probably better talking about in terms of the podcast.
So there's 3 elements to Rainmakers, but let me say at the start what this is about. The thing I referenced earlier, the difficulty of knowledge transfer across the generations. That's what this project is about. The other thing to say is that, you know, a lot of the kind of business knowledge that's been developed in the film industry has been developed by the individuals who are now senior practitioners. So there's a dynamic knowledge base that they have built by solving problems in real life as they occur. And all of that knowledge sits in their heads. So our challenge as an industry is, how do we get it out of their heads into the heads of the next generation? That's what Rainmakers is about. There are 3 interlocking parts of it. The first part is a podcast series. So we propose to interview as many as we can of those senior practitioners, ask them a set of questions designed to elicit, you know, that some very highly specialized, some very valuable knowledge that they've, you know, built or, you know, developed in their own practice over time. So that set of podcasts will be available to everyone, whether or not you're actually a mentee in the program. That those podcasts will be available to all. The second part is the heart of it, the mentoring, and the idea here is that we will connect you to a mentor who fits the profile of the needs and focus and expertise that you need to develop yourself and your career. And by the way, I'll just say, you know, to differentiate Rainmakers and Strength in Numbers is about a business. It's about your business. Rainmakers is much more about you as an individual and your development, and about connecting you to people who can help your development. So the intention is that we would find the right person, and that will happen through a process of us talking to you and then, you know, looking amongst the mentors that we have recruited and interviewed through the Rainmakers podcast series, finding the right person, connecting the 2 of you. And by the way, the mentor has to accept the proposition that we put to them. They have to accept you as a mentee, and we really want them to commit. And what we're going to ask them to do is to, over the period of a year, commit at least a full day, that is 8 hours of dedicated one-to-one time to you as the mentee. So that's the second interlocking part. The third interlocking part is a series of seminars, some of which will be in person in real life, and some will be online. And these seminars will basically address the topics, the issues, the burning issues that emerge from the mentoring. So as we talk to the mentors and indeed talk to the mentees about what is happening in that mentoring program, I'm sure that we will find that there will be common themes, common problems. And those are the things that we'll then address through a series of seminars these, as I say, in real life and online. And typically, I think what we'll do is ask one of the mentors or maybe a couple of the mentors to lead a workshop on the topic that we've identified, the issue, the burning problem that we've identified. So those seminars will address the burning problems, but they'll also be the place where you can meet other mentees and meet the mentors, some of them at least, in real life. So that's where people come together. The big focus, the kind of central question of the seminars will be this: if you were building a content business today, and this is a question really to our mentors, if you were building a content business today, what would you build? Because the world is changing, the game is changing, new rules are being forged, new thinking is required, and that's what we want to do in these seminars, that new thinking.
Okay, we've got some questions coming in. I just wanted to run through one thing first specifically. So the kind of delivery or the dates are all on the website. There's one slight change that we're proposing that we still need to confirm. So between November and October next year, so November this year, October next year, that's when the one-to-one sessions would be happening. We previously had 21st of February as the New Zealand hub. So there's going to be there's going to be a coming together in New Zealand and then another one in Australia, which would be an amazing opportunity for our cohort to go to Australia and meet a lot of people over there, but also hopefully they'll come over for the New Zealand hub as well. We had it on the 21st of February, but we're looking to maybe move that by a couple of weeks to the 14th of March, but that's to be confirmed. It's just a clash with other programs that we've got running. We will let you all know through the website, of course. And then the rest of the dates you can see are there. We're looking at possibly linking up with the Melbourne Film Festival for the Australian hub, which would be a great opportunity and time of year to go across to Melbourne and do our seminar and thing over there. I keep calling it a hub because we call it hubs in other programs, but it's actually a seminar. Okay, we've got a few questions coming through. Okay. So examples of who mentors might be, I think is the first one we've got in there.
As far up the tree as we can get is the answer. We're just doing our first Rainmaker interviews now, and the first happening this week, and the first two off the rank are Helen Bowden, who you probably know is actually a Kiwi producer as well as an Australian producer, and Chloe Rickard from Jungle. Next, after that, I think will be Sue Maslin and Robert Connolly. So we're sort of, they're the Australian ones. We haven't yet identified or confirmed the New Zealand mentors, but that's what we'll be doing from here. And particularly once we start to get a sense of who the mentees are, that will to some extent shape who we pursue to be mentors. Hope that answers the question. There's another question I can see there. Dale saying the brief sounds pretty open-ended. Yes, deliberately so. We're not wanting to be too determinative about who is an appropriate mentee. I think anyone who kind of finds themselves needing answers to questions. And another thing I wanted to emphasize here is that it's not just producers or even just above the line personnel we're thinking about. It's really anyone. And the same with the mentors. We're interested in the people who are highly productive, highly successful practitioners. That's as mentors. They can be in any role whatsoever. They might be, an entertainment lawyer. They might be working in a funding agency. They might be a casting agent. Anyone who is contributing to the productivity of the industry is, from our perspective, eligible as a mentor. And the same in terms of mentees, the same in terms of you as applicants. We don't really mind where you come from. It's about your needs and whether you fit this and whether we can answer or help answer questions for you.
And just to jump in there, I think this is a great opportunity for Script to Screen, because we often, not exclusively, but predominantly work with writer directors and producers in different programs. And so it's a great opportunity for us to support, others within the ecosystem of film and TV where we can. So yeah, it's a great opportunity in that respect as well. We've got one here. What does a co-designed approach look like, or what does it mean from our point of view?
So really what we mean here is that each mentoring program will be co-designed between us, the mentor, and the mentee. So we're not going to specify in advance what it's going to be about or what are the outcomes of it or milestones of it might be. We'll negotiate those with both of you, the mentor and mentee. So that's what we mean by co-designed.
Yeah, and I think the other thing you've spoke to before, David, is because this, the plan for this or the hopeful outcome for the actual program is that it becomes a continuous program that can continue because of the generosity of the mentors, but also the way in which they buy into supporting the next generation of people coming through. So by its very nature, it might look quite different in a year or two's time to the first year, for example. So I think that element of the individual co-design and the overall co-design will be working together.
Someone asking, is the mentee able to choose their mentor? Not exactly. Certainly you could say or suggest someone you think would be the right mentor. Whether that person's available or interested is another question. So we can't guarantee that even if, that person were one of the Rainmakers, one of the mentors, that they would be available to you. And we do give them the option of accepting or not accepting a proposed mentee. So I can't really answer that affirmatively. I can say that we'll obviously take it into account, but not that we can guarantee that it would work out in the way you wish. And, we might have a different idea of who would be the right mentor. And obviously we'd discuss that with you too. But what I'm saying is it's a negotiation.
So the next one I've got here, what do you most want to hear in the one paragraph biography about us as screen practitioners, considering it's only up to 150 words? You're asking about goals, work history separately. I mean, from my understanding of most of these things where you are putting something about yourself and where you've come from or where you're trying to get to, I think it's keeping it obviously concise and focused on what do you want to try and get out of this kind of process, in this program. Who you are, we need to get a sense of who you are and what you're doing, and then what is the main thing you want to try and achieve through this program. I think that's key. Links to biographies and things like that. If you've got other opportunities to upload things like that, or links to websites and things, that's useful to give background. But don't concern yourself too much with that. It's who you are, where you're at, and where you want to get to.
That's pretty much it. 150 words does sound very a brutally reductivist approach to describing a life, but we are looking for concision and for you to do the work of really explaining to us clearly what it is, who you are, and what it is you want.
Okay, there's a question about the Rainmakers program in relation to Film Up, which is another mentorship program that we've run in the past that isn't currently funded. And I mean, Dave's not been involved in running Film Up or delivering Film Up. We have it script to screen. My understanding of the difference, I mean, the mentorship at its heart, yes, there's a mentorship. My understanding is that the Film Up program is equally about the cohort coming together and supporting each other, a bit like a strength in numbers cohort. And also that one-to-one mentorship is longer, goes on for longer, and possibly is even more, although this one is going to be co-designed, so it may end up project-based. This mentorship may not be project-based. It may not be in and around a project, a film or TV production. It might be around other aspects of your creative development. So that's my understanding of the difference between the two. What have we got? Level of experience?
I think, most people have got some extraneous non-feature film elements in their career. I think that's fine. This is just, if you see yourself as if you've got that sort of level of experience, if you're still starting out in the film industry, I guess, that would make you emerging. I mean, we're really not wanting to be prescriptive here too much. We're expecting you to have experience and enough experience to really know where you're trying to go, what you want to achieve, so that you're not, in looking for a mentor, it's not just someone to, pat you on the back or reassure you. We're looking, you should be looking for someone who can help you achieve a goal or a set of goals that you have articulated for yourself, And that's what we're trying to understand in this application process. What are those goals? Do we think a mentor, is there an available mentor? And do we think they can be realistically addressed through a mentorship? Does that make sense?
Yep. Does to me. Okay, what do we got here? Experience that's that one. Given that Rainmakers is open to screen affiliated applicants, entertainment lawyers, regional film officers, etc., how does this affect the main focus around building innovative and new content systems? Because these people might want to create a different sort of screen-related business or system.
I don't see any problem here at all. I mean, the idea of it being open is this, like, if you look at any knowledge industry, but this is particularly true for the film industry, what you'll see is there's a relatively small number of people who are highly productive, who produce and generate much of the work. We're interested in those people, and we don't really care what role they're in. You know, they might be, as I say, an entertainment lawyer, someone who's, you know, advised on 100 projects. So what I think is relevant here is that all of those people contribute to the success of the business, contribute to its output, contribute to its productivity. So there's no reason in my mind to distinguish between them. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question here, but I think if what we're interested in is what does the screen content business of the future look like, then the answers may come from anyone, not necessarily from producers or from writers. That's why we're throwing the thing open to reflect and recognize that sort of thinking that we require to find innovative, workable new solutions to the changing environment we live in may come from anyone. That's the core of it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned before, at the heart of this is a matching process that everyone has to be on board with. So the mentee, the mentor, David, will find a way to find those best matches. And sometimes some of those matches might be with someone within your normal worldview and your normal way of doing things, but actually there might be a suggestion that someone outside of that might really unlock something for you, which I think could be really exciting. So once again, that openness to the possibility is really useful.
How many people will we take into the program? 6 is the answer, I think.
Yep, there is. Yep, 6 people. That's what we've got.
6 in this round. We are hoping for future rounds.
Yes. Lobby your funders. Okay, it seems one of the key benefits of this program will be the network that is built across the cohort, absolutely, in here and in Australia. Is there a collaborative element within the program between the mentees to further foster this networking building? It's a great idea.
There is in the seminar program. So when you come together with the other mentees and with some of the mentors from time to time in the program, that will be the opportunity to really connect with those people. So those seminars, and there'll be 3 days of those in total. As I say, some in real life, some online. They're the opportunities to meet and kind of connect with others in your peers. We won't do too much beyond that to structure that. It's really kind of, in my experience, people sort this out pretty quickly themselves and build those connections without any prompting really from us. But we will create those opportunities in terms of the seminars and that structured opportunity to be in the room together.
And we also, a lot of you on the call will know that Script to Screen have a number of different programs. Anyone that's involved in our programs, then you become part of the alumni community of Script to Screen, and there are other supports and ways in which people interact through that. So we can connect you up in that way as well.
Someone's asking, I have different roles in the film industry. I'll mention them all, yes.
Oh, connection. Is that meaning connected into the screen industry? I'm not sure. What does that mean from your point of view? I'm not sure what that question's in relation to. I may have mentioned the word connection. I'm not sure.
Yeah, we're interested in building your connections, helping you build connections in the industry. The thing I said earlier about how relatively small number of people generate so much of the work. So it's really important, therefore, to connect to those people. And, partly this is about connecting you to highly productive people, your peers, but also amongst the mentors.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt. That was in relation to what we were looking for.
Oh, okay.
Characteristics.
Oh, I see. Okay, so hopefully we've answered your question. Here they come. Can you apply as a creative partnership?
That's an interesting question. I can't see why not. I'm not, Dale, I'll be guided by you, but it seems to me that that might work. I think would be very much dependent on the case you're making for the mentoring that you require. If the partnership, if the two people together as a partnership need mentoring about some set of questions, yeah, that could make sense. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, it does depend on the mentor accepting the mentee proposal. So, and we give them that, it's their call in the end. We can't force anyone on them. It's up to them to accept. But if you could make that case and make it compelling, then yeah, there may well be someone who would be interested to mentor a partnership, create a partnership.
Great. The next one, what's an example of a goal an applicant wants to work towards?
Gosh, almost anything. It might be working towards, starting a new business. It might be working towards adopting some new methodology in, I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, financing. Say you've got a brilliant idea about how to finance films differently. You might want a mentor to help you develop that thinking. You can almost sort of generate endless examples here. But what we're looking for, the reason we ask for specific goals is the more specific you are, the easier it is for us to identify a mentor who can help you, and also easier, for the mentor to engage with you. Even if those goals might change and might be negotiated over time, it's good to start with something clear as you can be.
Is there a possibility? Okay, the next one. Is there a possibility that you would suggest someone apply for one or other based on their application? If they applied for one and weren't suitable but were suitable for the other, I'd suggest just doing an application for both.
If you think it could be relevant to, if you think either one might be the right one, then apply for both would be my suggestion.
We've got another one in there. Can you be matched with a mentor in either New Zealand or Australia?
Yes. The answer is yes.
Oh, hang on. Is someone who's interested in both programs? Is it possible to be chosen? Oh, yes. Is it possible? We talked about this before, actually, before we came on. It is possible to be chosen for both programs if I think there just has to be a compelling case of why we're not taking a place, but why we're giving a place to the same person in both programs. But if we genuinely think there's a compelling reason and it makes perfect sense, then we're more than willing to look at that. Part of it is making sure that you can spread the love and support to more people. So we're just looking for that compelling case, really.
That's a good question. The focus fundamentally is developing the careers of the mentees, yes. But we thought that there is so much change on foot now that it was relevant to set this question of if you were building a content business from scratch. We're going to put this question to all the mentors in the podcast series. If you were building, if you were 25 again, but you knew everything you know today, what would you build? So we're really interested in that question of, not just looking backwards in time and, but looking forwards and thinking about the challenges of now and what kind of businesses people should be building now. That's a kind of, if you like, that's a kind of central theme, but it's not the total focus of the program.
I think we've probably exhausted the questions. Well, we just want to thank everyone for coming on. I think we had a good number on, which is very exciting for us. So thank you for engaging. Thank you for being interested. A huge thanks to David for bringing these programs to us and working with continuing to work with Script Screen on these programs. We're really excited about this collaboration. And if you've got any other questions or any other kind of concerns about the programs and how to apply, obviously you can get in touch via the website, and you can email us, and we'll respond to you as soon as we can. But thanks again to David, and thanks to everyone for attending. Have a great evening.